So I'm Elizabeth Connelly. I'm working at the International Energy Agency. I'm an energy technology and transport analyst there, meaning that I work on long-term projections of different transport technologies, with electric vehicles being, one of the key technologies that we're looking at. For the past 3 years, I've been leading our work on the global EV Outlook report series that we produce every year. And the goal there is really to track and monitor progress on electric mobility around the world and provide guidance to policymakers. So I joined IEA and this EVS 38 conference because I think electric mobility has a big role to play in helping decarbonize the transport sector. So right now I think over 90% of the energy consumed for transport is still from oil products. And what we see with the technology developments is that EVs have a really high potential for helping us reduce dependency on oil. Right, so I think heavy-duty vehicle electrification is really exciting. There's a lot of big trucks around the room now that are electric, and I think some of the analysis we did this year on electric trucks shows that in China, at least, they're already cost competitive with diesel trucks. And what we expect is that in the US and in Europe, we'll start seeing that cost competitiveness come within the next 5 years. So really, I think this is the next frontier for electric vehicles. So in terms of innovation, I think vehicle-to-grid technologies are something that's going to be really important as the number of EVs grows. So instead of thinking of electric vehicles as being a burden on the grid, we want EVs to be able to support the grid and provide energy to the grid. So I think tracking progress on how these technology and the policies needed for vehicle-to-grid technologies is really important. So I think we've seen that EVs have come a long way in just the past 10 years, but as adoption grows, I think it becomes even more important to make sure that all of the different actors involved are talking to each other, and that we're learning from each other and moving in the same direction. So I think events like this help us understand what kind of technology developments are going on, as well as helping make sure we can standardize technologies to some extent, right? So this year in our global EV Outlook report, we looked out just to 2030, and so it's already kind of exciting what we see happening in just the next 5 years. So we think in 2025 already about 20% of cars sold will be electric. And by 2030, we think over 40% of cars worldwide will be electric. And what we see is that, with affordability in China improving every year, we think China is really going to help lead the way on this and get to around 80% sales share in China alone. And yeah, with policies in Europe, we also think this will reach around 60%. And even in emerging markets, we see that there's a strong potential for EV sales. So in Southeast Asia, for instance, we think a quarter of cars sold in 2030 could be electric. Yeah, so I think what we've seen recently is that improvements in battery technologies have really helped make EVs more affordable. So there's a lot of different types of advancements in batteries, but one of the things we've seen is that manufacturers have worked on cell-to-pack technologies, which have helped improve the energy density, and that gives you a longer driving range, or also reducing the cost for the same performance. So I think these kinds of things will really help make EVs even more mainstream and widespread. Right, so at the IEA we produce a report every year that tracks all of the developments over the past year, so I think that's certainly a place to start, is with our global EV Outlook report. But we also have data tools online, data and policy tools that help track also developments in terms of new regulations and policies, so that policymakers can learn from what's going on in other regions.